The Senate comes together in a bipartisan manner to change the way the Electoral Count Act works to make sure that we never have another January 6th. So we'll be talking just a bit about that. I'm a little bit disturbed, but I feel like they feel this is necessary because we were all so scared. In other news, in what is either a massive gaffe or the most nonchalant announcement ever in the history of cancer announcements, the president announces that he has cancer. And he got it from the oil company. So we'll be talking just a bit about that, what that means, and we will see what the video looks like and sounds like. Eric Adams complains and calls on help from the Biden admin because the illegal immigrants that are being bussed in from Texas are causing a strain on their resources in New York City. He's almost there. Almost there, folks. So we'll talk just a bit about what's happening with that. And a video shows tanks protecting crisis-hit banks in China. So we'll talk just a bit about that. It is going to be all this and more. You are my favorite breakfast tacos. I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good morning, Edheads. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar, and we have got another packed show this morning here. Plus, we got a thing I like and a couple things I hate today. I mean, how nonchalant do you be, or how far gone does your mind have to be to just come out in the middle of a speech and say, "Oh yeah, by the way, I have cancer, man. And it's the oil companies that gave it to me." And how much damage control actually has to be out there for the White House to come back and start trying to mop up over and over again about that. So we'll be talking about that. By the way, AOC is coming out and saying it's a conspiracy theory to say that she was pretending to be handcuffed as well. I've got that video. We've got a lot of fun. We've got a lot of bad news. We've got a lot of fun news, so we can make fun of stuff. Remember, if you're over on the Twitch side and, well, if you're just a follower over on the Twitch side, you've got a new slate of emotes that you can use to throw up to make fun of the news and how bad it really is. And if you get into the bottom level tier of subscription, you've got a new slate of emotes you can use to make fun of the news, rather. We don't have the upper two levels yet. I'm going to work on that a little bit over the weekend here. But yeah, we've got plenty of opportunity for you to express your opinion over the news. And if you are just lurking right now, remember, I do write down the names of everybody who chats in the live chat. I come out here and I say, hey, thank you on Friday. It's all in a notebook, ready to go. The notebook's actually out over on my couch right now, but I do write down and thank you. So if you guys are coming in here, make sure your opinions are heard. Even though I don't acknowledge it on the show, I do read every word that you guys say right after the show. As soon as I hit the off button, I go through and I read all the chat through here. So your opinions are being heard and we adjust the show accordingly. And before we get started, make sure you guys go check out the Daily Ignoramus, the Breakdown with Bergenhoff, the Aria Conservative, and the Porch Boys. Go check out Tweets by Brit and KTZed over on Twitter and Instagram. Their various profiles are a lot of fun, and all of them are helping to raise awareness and raise a better news site and news experience for you. News and culture by the common man for the common man. So go and check all of them out as we get set and started to go and build you guys a better news website. Let's get into the finance for the morning here. Looking into the Dow to start the morning. The Dow turned itself up yesterday. It struggled throughout the day. It came up. Well, it dropped throughout at the beginning of the day, and then it came back up. And then it dropped again, bringing itself all the way back down at its low point to 31,676.73. So it's a fairly steady. I mean, The variation through yesterday was not massive by any stretch of the imagination, but it did wind up turning up a fraction of a percentage point to 31,874.84. So not a lot of movement here. It's about where we were at yesterday, and we will continue to watch this and see where this goes as we get closer to midterm season. Looking at your Bitcoin, that has taken another slight tumble, coming down to 22,648.60. That is up over the past 5 days, $1,459 and 40 US cents, about a little shy of 7% up for the last 5 days. But looking in through the day, it looks like it's coming back down as people start to face down what we're going to see coming into the midterms. We're coming into the final stretch right now, so we're going to start to see the final pushes, the final attempts of Congress to try to band-aid the economy so they look good coming into the midterms and say, hey, see, we saved everything here. Everything's going great now. Just vote for us and we'll give you the socialism that we think that you want. And I still say don't fall for it, but our reflection of the immediacy of the economy, the Bitcoin, looks like it's doing somewhat well. We'll continue to watch this and gas. I noticed we stopped hearing all the tweets about, oh, well, gas has fallen for 35 days straight, 36 days, 37 days straight, because the fall has stalled, it appears, settling in at an easy 378 to 379. These are the same prices we've been seeing for the last couple days. My worry is, again, if we start to see some people coming in and saying, hey, I can afford it again, the demand goes up and the prices go back up again. But we've got stagflation here. We've got people that can't afford to go back and do the trips out there. I know I just looked at tires because, well, I got one that's doing the slow leak thing right now. So, unfortunately, something we've got to watch for and save up $1,000 for to put 4 tires on a truck for. But with that, I mean, I'm not probably driving anywhere long term for anywhere in the near future. And I'm feeling like a lot of people aren't as well. So it's settled. We'll see what happens with that. Let's see what IBD has to say for the morning. Dow futures falls with market rally still missing this. Tesla rises on earnings from Ed Carson. Dow futures and S&P 500 futures fell slightly early Thursday, while the Nasdaq edged higher with Tesla earnings in focus. The stock market rally added to momentum on Wednesday, led by techs and small caps. But while the indices are showing strength, bottom fishing continues to lead the broad-based advance. There remains a relative lack of buying opportunities for now. Tesla headlined key earnings overnight, with EPS topping but margins declining. Tesla stock rose modestly in active overnight trade. Steel Dynamics and Alcoa kicked off metal and mining earnings, with steelmaker Nucor and copper giant Freeport-McMoRan. Wow, is that really their name? Okay. Due early Thursday, United Airlines touched down with results after the close with American Airlines due before Thursday's open. CSX has led railroad earnings and Union Pacific out early Thursday. Alcoa earnings and revenue top views, with the aluminum giant announcing a $500 million stock buyback. Alcoa aluminum stocks was solidly higher before the open. Steel Dynamics profit sales topped while Nucor earnings beat. STLD stock in Nucor rose modestly. Freeport-McMoRan missed on earnings and sales. FCX stock fell slightly on results and weaker copper prices on Thursday. That is something to watch here because it looks like aluminum and steel are in demand right now, but copper not so much. And copper is one of the more base metals that we need to use for manufacturing. So I'm not sure where this points as far as the metals go, but it's something to watch for sure. United Airlines earnings fell well short of views, though revenue was in line. UAL stock fell sharply in extended action. American Airlines earnings and revenue were in line. American Airlines stock retreated modestly. CSX rose solidly, signaling a move over its 50-day line on strong Q2 results. Union Pacific stock edged lower despite solid earnings. From CSX to Tesla, none of the stocks are near buy points, but they do provide some indication of sector strength in a difficult economic environment. Meanwhile, health insurers struggled Wednesday after Elevance Health, formerly Anthem, warned of high medical costs. United Health, another of those health insurers, is on the IBD leaderboard and the IBD 50. So manufacturing and transport look like they're actually looking up right now. Healthcare looks like it's turning down. We'll continue to watch this and see where this goes. On the futures, Dow futures fell 0.2% versus fair value. The S&P lost 0.1%, and the Nasdaq climbed 0.2%. Tesla is a major Nasdaq component, while United Airlines is also in the Nasdaq 100. The 10-year yield rose 2 basis points to 3.06%. September crude futures tumbled more than 4% to nearly $95 a barrel. Gasoline futures plunged 6%. U.S. natural gas prices fell 3%. Russia did resume natural gas flows through the Nord Stream 1 pipeline, but only at 40% capacity. Still, European natural gas prices fell solidly. Copper futures sank more than 1%. The European Central Bank is expected to raise interest rates at 8:15 a.m. Eastern Time, with a half-point likely move. Remember, overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. So, a large amount of stuff that's moving here right now, especially with earnings coming on. The banks are mixed. The steel and the aluminum are good. The copper is down, and the healthcare is down. Adjust your portfolios accordingly, and do remember, this is not official financial advice. Let's grab one from the Wall Street Journal. Tech stocks gain with Nasdaq climbing 1.6%. From Anna Hirtenstein and Eric Wallerstein. Technology and other growth stocks climbed on Wednesday as more corporate earnings reports rolled in that were better than investors feared. The Nasdaq advanced 184.5 points, or 1.6%, to finish the day at 11,897.65. The S&P rose 23.21, or 0.6%, to 39,59.90. The Dow added 47.49 points, or 0.2%, to 31,874.84. All three indices rose for a second consecutive session and are trading at their highest level since early June. Technology, communications, and consumer discretionary rallied as investors sought out riskier areas in the market for much of the year. Rising interest rates have weighed on the value of stocks that are more focused on growth rather than near-term cash flows. Some of that pressure has eased over the past month. We have a far less volatile 10-year U.S. yield. Inflation expectations have come down, and earnings season so far has been better than feared, said Art Hogan, chief market strategist at B. Riley FBR Incorporated. Technology and consumer services have been some of the most beaten down segments of the market. Now risk appetite is coming in those areas. Stocks have swung in recent days during an earnings season that has been scrutinized for signs about how the highest inflation in more than 4 decades and slowing economic growth are affecting companies. Recent results from companies such as Goldman Sachs and Citigroup came in above Wall Street's expectations, even though both banks reported substantial declines in profit. Netflix followed suit late Tuesday, saying it lost fewer subscribers last quarter than expected, and forecast it would add 1 million net new subscribers in the current period. Yeah, if I'm going to invest in Netflix, I'm going to need to see a solid plan on how you plan to do that, because you've alienated just about half of your audience. Its shares rose 14.81, or 7.4%, to 216.44, and are up 14% on the week, on pace for their best weekly performance since July of 2020. So, Netflix is up, banks are mixed, manufacturing is mixed, healthcare is down. A lot of stuff moving. We will continue to watch where this goes. Let's get into the main news of the day. And we're going to start with some polling. Interactive polls comes out and says, new Quinnipiac poll. Biden job approval. Approve 31%. Disapprove 60%. Independents approve 23%. Disapprove 67%. Hispanics approve 19%. Disapprove 70%. Now, this poll is 1,523 adults and runs from 7/14 to 7/18. This is an individual poll, and this is not one of them that I would say is at the peak of accuracy, but this will bring us out to go and look at where we are in the aggregate. But still, on 31% approval, even if I don't consider this to be accurate, If this is just Joe Schmo walking down the street saying, hey, do you want to vote? Hey, do you approve of Biden? We don't need to know any other information about you. Do you approve of Biden or not? Typically, these kinds of polls favor President Biden. But it's not being so anymore. Now, some of the sentiment among Democrats has turned against Biden. I've actually seen somebody on Twitter say, well, he fulfilled his purpose, and that was to get that narcissistic orange baboon out of the White House. They never cared about him. They never did. But that's what we see for that. Let's actually look at the aggregate, though, from Real Clear Politics. President Biden job approval rating. And they happen to give us interesting little options here where we can compare the job approval at this point in each's presidency along with this. But looking at the average, from 7.5 to 7.19, Biden has dropped to 37.1% approval rating. With a 57.4 disapproval, that is a 20.3 spread. Now, what's interesting here is we've got, these are saying their spread is 15-23 adults, 7.14 to 7.18 on Quinnipiac, but the Quinnipiac that is 7.14 to 7.18 that was given to Real Clear Politics was a registered voters poll. And it fares actually slightly better for Biden on that. 714 to 718, 1,367 registered voters is 33 to 59, a 26-point spread. But if we look at some of these here, I mean, we're starting to see some of the old ones from right after the 4th of July fall off, and some of the smaller sample sizes, 825, 849, 800 adults on a CNBC poll. But Economist and YouGov is typically tilted towards Democrats as 40-54. Fox News, surprisingly, is 40-59. That typically doesn't favor the president, going all the way back to 7.6 to 7.9. On 1,643 adults, 40 to 49, a 9-point spread. From IBD, TIPP. But then next thing you go down is Rasmussen, which is usually the more accurate, 39 to 60, a 21-point spread. They don't like this president. And the spread just keeps getting wider and wider. And a lot of this I feel when I look at numbers like this, when I look at averages like this, one of the things that I tend to notice with this is we start to see now a lot of the Democrats in Congress are trying to distance themselves from this administration. They're trying to say, oh, no, we think that Grandpa needs to go into the home as well. Hey, vote for me. It's all about Roe versus Wade. Hey, Biden has failed. Come and vote for me, and I'll come back and fix this. But then we've also got the Liz Cheneys of the world who are coming out and saying, please, Democrats, just vote for me in the primary. Do what you want in the general, just vote for me in the primary. But that is what we see for that. These are brutal numbers for the Biden admin. When Fox, as a Democrat, is one of your best polls, you're not doing well. But we might be able to see some of the things that are coming out of that. And we're going to look at some electoral politics news coming from our friends over at NPR. That's right, NPR is saying a bipartisan Senate group announces a deal on reforming the Electoral Count Act. Man, would I love to see some of the Republicans that are involved in that, of course. I'm sure it's going to be the usual suspects here, but Barbara Sprunt comes out and gives us this news that the bipartisan group wants to make sure that the role of the vice president really is largely ceremonial and has nothing to do with reality or people actually dissenting. So remember to hit that donate button because NPR needs our money to tell you why voting for Republicans is evil, and why Mike Pence is a hero. Because he got rid of the evil orange man by counting the votes in what they still say is a largely ceremonial role. So, hit that donate button, Never Printing Reality, National Progressive Radio. Let's see what it is that they have to say. After months of negotiations, a bipartisan group of senators on Wednesday announced 2 proposals related to election admin, including one to reform the Electoral Count Act, a widely criticized 1887 law that governs the process of casting and counting electoral college votes, and that came under fresh scrutiny following attempts to invalidate the presidential election results on January 6th of 2021. We won't talk about what happened on January 6th of 2017. Or perhaps January 6th of 2001, or 2005. Perhaps what happened on January 6th of 1989. Or January 6th of 1985, or January 6th of 1981. We won't talk about those January 6th. This is all about January 6th, 2021. The plans were announced a day ahead of the House Select Committee's final scheduled primetime hearing on its investigation into the Capitol Selfie Fest. Thank God that's over. CNN, we will produce the news to make you feel a certain way, whether or not it's based in reality. From the beginning, our bipartisan group has shared a vision of drafting legislation to fix the flaws of the archaic and ambiguous Electoral Count Act of 1887, the U.S. Senators said in a joint statement. Manchin and Collins led the effort to reform the law, because of course it's Collins, which would need 60 votes to break a filibuster and pass the Senate. The proposal unveiled on Wednesday to reform the Electoral Count Act has 16 co-sponsors, including 9 Republicans. GOP leader Mitch McConnell of Kentucky has signaled he's open to updating the old law. The law itself was created after a chaotic election in 1876 that saw Democrat Samuel Tilden win the popular vote but lose the presidency because of contested election results. As 3 southern states sent in competing returns, a decade later, Congress enacted the Electoral Count Act to avoid a repeated fiasco by establishing clearer processes for the Electoral College certification. But as NPR's Miles Parks had reported, some legal experts argue the crafters of the law did a terrible job. Members of both major parties opened the door to updating the ECA nearly a year after the 2021 attack. Yes, attack. On the U.S. Capitol, which came following then-President Trump's pressure campaign against his own vice president to abandon his ceremonial role in telling the results and helping to overturn the election. Advocates for reforming the ECA argue that the law isn't clear enough about the roles the vice president and Congress play in certifying the election results, and that the weakness was exploited by Trump and his allies to try to keep him in power. We're on YouTube, so I'm not going to say what they were actually trying to prevent. The updated language. I'm sorry. As the law exists now, only 1 member of the House and 1 member of the Senate are needed to challenge any state's set of electors. These are the lawmakers who objected to the Electoral College count in 2021. Also, the lawmakers who objected to the count in 2017, in 2005, in 2001, in 1989, in 1985, and in 1981. The updated language would raise the threshold, shifting the requirement of 20% of the members of each chamber. The proposal would enact new measures aiming at ensuring that Congress can identify a single conclusive slate of electors from each state. According to a fact sheet, the provisions include identifying each state's governor, unless otherwise specified in the laws or constitution, of a state in effect on Election Day as responsible for submitting the certificate of ascertainment and identifying that state's electors, and requiring Congress to defer to slates of electors submitted by a state's executive pursuant to the judgments of the state or federal courts. And that measure would strike a provision of an archaic 1845 law that could be used by states' legislatures to override the popular vote in their states by declaring a failed election a term that's not defined by law. Oh, the things I could say about failed election if I wasn't on YouTube right now. The bill would also reaffirm the constitutional role of the Vice President as the presiding officer of the joint meeting of Congress is solely ministerial. Some of the reforms came in part from proposals issued after Democrat-led House Admin Committee shared a report in January, completed after months of review from legal experts. The measure to reform the Electoral Count Act includes the section to provide guidelines for when the new admin can receive federal resources for their transition into office. So basically it says that a fifth of Congress needs to object to any slate of electors if there's going to be some sort of objection to it, and that the Vice President only rubber stamps. I wonder what happens if the Vice President refuses. If he looks at this and says, I see some honking coming on this election, and I can't get behind this. You need to find somebody else to go man your rubber stamp, because I ain't going to do it. Now, of course, Pence himself has controlled opposition. He was from the beginning. Another warmongering pig from the old guard of the Republican Party. And he's going to go on with whatever they're going to do, but as far as this goes, if somebody looks in and says, hey, I see some absolute honking going on in this. I can't get behind this. What do they do with this new Electoral Count Act, if it does pass? Although I'm sure this is another ad campaign of, evil Republicans block the Electoral Count Act. Get out and vote for Republicans. Oh my God. Vote against the Republicans. We need to eliminate the filibuster on everything in the Senate because Republicans blocked everything we wanted to do. But that's what we see for that. Joe Biden got into the news yesterday, giving a speech. I don't know what that banner is that keeps showing up across the New York Post, but we're going to pause this for a second. Hey, I said pause this. And we'll listen to that in a second, because that is the clip of him doing just that. But from the New York Post, Joe Biden says he has cancer, thanks to the oil industry, but White House points to skin cancer years ago. From Stephen Nelson. President Brandon said Wednesday that he has cancer, forcing the White House press office to quickly clarify that he was referring to skin cancer treatment that he had before taking office last year. The remark initially appeared to be a stunningly casual health announcement during a speech about global warming, in which the president described emissions from oil refineries near his childhood home in Claymont, Delaware. That's why I and so damn many other people I grew up with have cancer, and why for the longest time Delaware had the highest cancer rate in the nation. Come on, man, Biden said. Well, let's see. You represented Delaware to the United States Congress. Getting kickbacks from the environmental lobby for 47 years. Why are we first doing this now? White House spokesman Andrew Bates referred to the Post to a tweet from the Washington Post columnist Glenn Kessler, who noted that Biden had non-melanoma skin cancers removed before he took office. It's unclear why Biden chose to use the present verb tense to describe his experiences with cancer. Well, because he's old, he's demented, and he has no idea what year it is. He said, "I have cancer in the present tense, you absolute dip crap." Greg Price of X Strategies LLC tweeted in response to Kessler. Anarchist author Michael Malice. Oh my God. And this is from the New York Post. Why are we getting this kind of editorialization? Meanwhile, joke, don't worry about Biden having cancer. He's married to a doctor, referring to the fact that First Lady Joe Biden uses the honorific doctor to note her 2007 doctorate in education. Skin cancer is extremely common, especially among older adults who don't wear sunscreen in their youth, and generally isn't life-threatening. So let's listen to the clip. Let's actually turn volume on so we can listen to the clip.
And because it was a 4-lane highway that was accessible, my mother drove us, and rather than us be able to walk. And guess what? The first frost, you know what was happening? You had to put on your windshield wipers to get literally the oil slick off the window. That's why I and so damn many other people I grew up have cancer. And why for the longest time, Delaware had the highest cancer rate in the nation. That's why I and so damn many other people I grew up have cancer. And because it was a 4-lane highway that was accessible.
Like, I don't understand the point of the story otherwise. And the closed captioning, by the way, makes it even worse because...
Hey, everybody, this is Congressman...
Shut up. Going back to what I was saying, the worst part of it is the closed captioning makes it worse. Like, what is, he just threw the random word camp in there. The guy is not all there. And he has control of the nuclear codes. That scares the crap out of me, yo. It really does. That scares the ever-loving crap. Every time I hear this guy speak, I just remember this guy has the nuclear codes. But it is what it is. As far as the cancer thing goes, yeah, he is just demented. The brain is gone. He has no idea where he is. Do I wish that he would get a malignant tumor in the butthole that's inoperable? Well, actually, I'm not going to say that out loud. But does he probably have a major cancer that would affect him doing his job? Well, let's be realistic. He can't do his job any worse than he already is. So, and I say that, and now he's going to do worse than he actually already is. I've cursed us all. You're welcome. Let's keep going. Biden has issued his executive actions. We have a statement, a fact sheet. I'm going to say this is a propaganda sheet, and I haven't pre-read this, by the way. From the White House, President Biden's executive actions on climate to address extreme heat and boost offshore wind. From, well, this is statements and releases. Today, President Biden will reiterate that climate change is clear and a present danger to the U.S. Since Congress is not acting on this emergency, President Biden will in the coming weeks. President Biden will announce additional executive actions to combat this emergency. So, the way I understand EO in its actual use is it's supposed to be Congress making a law and the presidency deciding how to enforce the law that Congress made. So this is all supposed to start in Congress. But even if it wasn't, even if it's been bastardized to an unrecognizable, wow, I'm doing great this morning, aren't I? If it's been bastardized to an unrecognizable form in the fact that they are legislating with a pen and a phone, like I used to do when I was president. Congress wouldn't give me what I wanted, so I told them, I said, either you're gonna give me what I want, or I'm gonna go around you. I got a pen and phone. Even if that still did not the Supreme Court just give executive agencies, which this would go through the EPA because that's the appropriate department, did the Supreme Court not just give them a little slap on the wiener and say, you shall not? Be interested to see how this goes. Today, President Biden is announcing his latest set of executive actions to turn the climate crisis into an opportunity by creating good-paying jobs and clean energy and lowering the cost for families. So, getting paid off by the Chinese businesses that make the crap that they're going to try to use to generate energy from. And clean energy and lowering costs for families. His actions will protect communities from climate impacts already here, including extreme heat conditions impacting more than 100 million Americans this week, and expand offshore wind opportunities and jobs in the United States. Again, to get cheap Chinese wind turbines shipped over here for 10% over list price. Probably going through a bank or an investment firm that's owned by Hunter Biden. The president will make the announcement at a former coal-fired power plant in Brayton Point, Massachusetts, that will host a cable manufacturing facility to support the flourishing offshore wind industry, representing how the president's leadership is accelerating the nation's transition away from the pollution, environmental injustice. Oh, the words that they use for this. Environmental injustice. Ugh. And volatile price swings of the past towards the good-paying jobs and energy security of the future. The president's new EOs will protect communities from extreme heat and dangerous climate impacts. You mean summer? FEMA is announcing $2.3 billion in funding, out of your taxpayer dollars, for its Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities program for fiscal year 2022, the largest BRIC investment in history. Why is FEMA doing this? FEMA is there to go and mop up after the levee fails. We have different infrastructure departments to take care of things beforehand. Why is FEMA doing this? The largest BRIC investment in history, boosted by President's bipartisan infrastructure law. Where's the money come from, Joe? This funding will help communities increase resilience to heat waves, droughts, fires, floods, hurricanes, and other hazards by preparing before disaster strikes. BRIC is among hundreds of federal programs that the Biden-Harris administration is laundering money through to support the Justice 40 initiative and prioritize delivering benefits to disadvantaged communities. Ugh! Why don't you increase the economy so we can make fewer disadvantaged communities to lift people out of poverty and help them improve their communities? Lowering cooling costs for communities suffering from extreme heat. Today, the Department of Health and Human Services is issuing guidance that for the first time expands how the Low-Income Home Energy Assistance Program can promote delivery of efficient air conditioning, equipment, community cooling centers, and more. In April, the Biden-Harris administration released $385 million through LIHEAP to help families with their household energy costs, including summer cooling, part of a record $8 billion that the admin has provided, boosted by the president's bipartisan infrastructure law. There you go, $8 billion of taxpayer money given away to government contracts that are going to go, again, and buy everything 10% over list and line their pockets. Expand offshore wind opportunities and jobs. The Department in the Interior is proposing the first wind energy areas in the Gulf of Mexico, a historic step towards expanding offshore wind opportunities to other regions of the U.S. These areas cover 700,000 acres and have the potential to power over 3 million homes. The President is also directing the Secretary of the Interior to advance wind energy development in the waters off the mid and southern Atlantic coast and Florida's Gulf Coast, alleviating uncertainty cast by the prior administration. These actions follow the President's launch of a new federal-state offshore wind implementation partnership that brought together governors to deliver more clean, affordable energy and jobs. I have no problem doing offshore wind. I do need to question where the components come from. Are we getting these fiberglass and boated in from China? From another third world country? If you're making them here, the amount of coal used to make the steel to put these towers up will offset all of the energy savings that will ever come out of these windmills. The windmills can spin until their blades fall off. And you will not offset the amount of coal that went into making that thing. But I've got this sinking feeling that this is not coming from US-made manufacturer. I've got this feeling Hunter's investment firm is about to get a very, very healthy boost from both China and the United States. But that is their fact sheet, i.e. their propaganda sheet. And they go on to talk about providing record funding off of your dollar, workplace safety, advanced OSHA. OSHA has already conducted 564 heat-related inspections, which are focused on over 70 high-risk industries across 43 states. Yeah, the rest of us just suck it up and work in the heat. And if we can't handle the heat, we get a job that's air-conditioned. On days when the heat index is 80 or higher, OSHA inspectors and compliance assistance specialists are engaging in proactive outreach and technical assistance to help stakeholders keep workers safe on the job. I gotta show this around work. I gotta show this. Oh, they will laugh about this. We're putting a footnote into that one. All right. From Reuters. And actually, this is going to push back on what Ron just said in the chat, by the way. Biden stopped short of declaring climate emergency, takes steps on wind power. So it's not quite an emergency. So this goes back and makes me question, why is FEMA involved? There's no reason for FEMA to be involved in this. From Jeff Mason and Timothy Gardner. President Biden said on Wednesday that climate change is an emergency, but stopped short of a formal declaration announcing a modest package of EOs and promising more aggressive efforts. Biden made the comments during a visit to Massachusetts, and as a historic heat wave batters Europeans and United States, some 100 million Americans from New York City to Las Vegas will be under heat warnings this week. Yeah, we're under a heat warning here. You know what I did? Turned my air conditioning on to Energy Saver, turned off my microphone, and went to work. Some 100 million Americans from New York City to Vegas will be under heat warnings this week. We read that. Climate change is literally an existential threat to our nation and the world. Biden said, "This is an emergency, an emergency. Repeat the line, and I will look at it that way." The announcement includes new funding for cooling centers and pushing for new offshore wind projects in the oil-rich Gulf of Mexico. Still, these actions fall short of demands by lawmakers and environmental activists who want Biden to formally declare a climate emergency, which would enable the use of the Defense Production Act to ramp up production of a wide range of renewable energy products and systems that we will continue to buy from China. Biden's under increasing pressure after conservative Democrat Manchin said last week he was not ready to support key climate provisions in Congress, a critical loss in the evenly divided Senate. FEMA will provide $2.3 billion in funding to help states build cooling centers to deal with excessive heat and to tackle other impacts of climate change, the White House said as it announced the largest ever investment to the Building Resilient Infrastructure in Communities program. Okay, climate change. Let's talk about that for just a second. If anything, we are cooling right now. I live in southern Wisconsin. I have lived in southern Wisconsin, with the exception of 2 years when I lived in eastern Massachusetts, since September of 2002, in various different places. I've lived in Kenosha, I've lived close to Madison, and now I lived in Redacted. But it's always been in southern Wisconsin. And in my experience, in the 20 years that I've lived in southern Wisconsin, this is the coolest summer that I remember. Any other summer, that air conditioner over there, as soon as this microphone came off, because, I mean, you'll hear the motor if I went and turned it on right now. But as soon as I turn this microphone off, get up and turn that air conditioner back on, as soon as I do that, it's on for the rest of the season. Last year, the air conditioner was on pretty much nonstop from the last week of May until the second week of August, with very, very few days of reprieve in between. Of course, getting up and turning the air conditioner off so I could come up and do contemporary. I did leave the air conditioner on a couple nights ago because it was excessively humid in here, but in the energy saver position, which turns it off when the temperature gets down into the cool area, because it's a window unit. This is a rental. And it stayed off through the majority of the night. These couple days of 90 plus heat for this particular summer are an outlier. In a summer that is typically, that's the norm, is 90 plus. So because we've had a couple days of heat wave in an abnormally cool summer, they want to come back out and yell climate change. And they think we don't notice this. Now again, I am all for putting wind towers up in the Gulf of Mexico. Avoid the places that have the oil, because you're going to need that, and the coal, by the way, as well, to go make the new blades, but make the turbines here. I am still half and half on the solar energy. It's a cool idea that we can get almost free energy from the sun. But the chemicals we're using right now, if any of these panels happen to crack, the land is fallow for like ever underneath it. I like the idea of solar, but I don't think we're there yet on the technology to do it safely. But also remember, that turbine can spin until the blades fall off of it, and you will never offset the coal that it took to make it. Keep that in mind as we go back and do this. But that's our EOs. Let's talk a little bit more about climate. From Insider, AOC, in a latest swipe at Manchin, says he has no authority, puppy, to speak on climate change, according to a report. From Nicole Gaudino, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Chavez told The Independent that Senator Manchin has no authority, okay, puppy, to talk about climate change after he thanked Democrats' efforts to address the emergency. Ocasio-Cortez's latest jab in her ongoing intra-party feud with Manchin, a West Virginia Democrat who doesn't toe the progressive line, came after he told Democrats last week that he would not support an economic package that includes new climate change spending or tax increases to finance the legislation. Manchin has paused all action in the U.S. to act on climate change for the last 4 years, okay, puppy? the New York Progressive told The Independent. I don't think that he has any authority to speak on climate for the rest of our term here, okay? Girlfriend, let's come out here and tell Manchin that he's not welcome here, okay, puppy? President Biden will deliver remarks on Wednesday on tackling climate crisis. He has been reportedly considering declaring national climate emergency, which would pave the way for executive action on the issue. Declaring a national emergency provides the president broad authorizations to act on climate. I think it's an essential step, and we also need to hear what he plans to do with that. Ocasio-Cortez, author of the Redistribution New Deal legislation, told The Independent. When asked for his reaction to a possible national climate emergency declaration, Manchin responded, "Let's see what Congress does. The Congress needs to act." You just said you weren't going to do anything. One thing to pay attention to with Manchin. I know a lot of conservatives love Joe Manchin right now. They want to say, hey, come over to the Republican Party, Joe Manchin. They hate you over there. Joe Manchin is not your friend. He's another government lackey looking out what is best for his bottom line. And fortunately right now, his bottom line is best improved by blocking the progressive wing of the Democrat Party. But never forget that he is a neoliberal Democrat who managed to weasel his way through in a fairly conservative state. But he will stab you in the back, just like every other politician, as soon as he has the opportunity. I like that, Gaines. That's good. Oh, hey, and I'm wearing my Ghostbusters shirt. With, the camera doesn't go up high enough to see it, but I also have the Ghostbusters logo my nephew drew for me up on the wall over here. And the hand turkey that his little sister drew for me. That one you can see, the hand turkey. And if they continue making artwork, it will continue going on the wall in the shot. I won't name them by name, but their stuff will be on the wall. But that's Ocasio-Cortez and Manchin. All right, let's talk about a little bit of law and crime. U.S. Capitol Police Chief Tom Menger upset that Colbert and crew was spared. Why? You knew it was coming. I knew it was coming. I knew as soon as I heard that Colbert was arrested, that charges were, or not Colbert, but his crew were arrested, that they were going to be cut loose, turned loose, and nothing was going to come out of it immediately. I'm surprised it took him this long, to be honest. From Chad Pergram. Capitol Police Chief Tom Menger isn't happy. Boo-hoo. Menger is upset that the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia didn't prosecute the Colbert 9. USCP officers busted those who worked for Stephen Colbert for trespassing after hours in the Longworth House office building and then allegedly lied to officers that they held congressional credentials. It's unfortunate that despite all of the evidence the department presented, including that the group or its leader had been told several times that they could not be in the buildings without an escort, that the U.S. Attorney's Office is declined to prosecute any members of the group for unlawful entry, Menger wrote. Really? You lead the department that defends the Capitol in the city that will let any Democrat go free of its crime and will put the life sentence on a Republican jaywalker. This surprises you, really? I mean, do you not live in D.C.? Do you not understand this? I feel like you should know this. I saw this coming. And I've only slept in D.C. twice. That's the only experience that I have with the District of Columbia. And I knew this was coming. It might be time for you to step down there, Menger, because you clearly don't know your jurisdiction. It was part of a letter to Rep. Rodney Davis of Illinois, the top Republican on the House Administration Committee, and Jim Jordan of Ohio, the leading Republican on the House Judiciary panel. Both Davis and Jordan sent their own letter to Menger in June inquiring about the late-night arrest of the Late Show crew. Yeah, I knew as soon as I heard that the Colbert people were picked up by Capitol Police that they were going to get cut loose. So, yep. You can be disappointed all that you want, Menger. It's not going to change a thing. This is DC. We've got another one here from NPR. Biden gets an earful in the Oval Office from Mexican President Lopez Obrador from Scott Detrow. And remember, supposedly, Mexico is donating all the money to build a new border security. But you should also donate to NPR because your taxpayer dollars don't do enough to help fund their propaganda for communism. So make sure that you hit that donate button because NPR is never printing reality. National Progressive Radio. Let's see what Scott Detrow has to say. In his long career as senator, Biden has sat through his share of lengthy speeches. But sitting in the Oval Office on Tuesday, President Biden seemed a bit out of practice during a meeting with Mexico's Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador. Biden at turns smirked, grimaced, fidgeted, and took notes as the Mexican president launched into remarks that went on for more than a half an hour. Come on, man! Why am I here? Who's this beaner that's talking? Wait, I can't say that? Why not? That's what I said about him when I was in Congress. Some 20 minutes into his remarks, Lopez Obrador said he was getting ready to conclude. Biden broke into a big grin and laughed. Speaking through an interpreter, the populist leader touched on everything from FDR's migrant policies. There's some good news. To the relative costs of the American and Mexican gasoline to lithium mining and the need for broader, more predictable migration policies. Biden made a point to tell his counterpart that he agreed with many of Lopez Obrador's broad points and that our nations share close ties, family, and friendship. Biden said the policy differences between the two are often exaggerated by overhyped headlines. Biden also touted cooperation between the two nations on targeting drugs, specifically fentanyl, as well as tackling the root causes that lead people to migrate from Central and South America to Mexico and the U.S. But Lopez Obrador's visit to the White House came immediately on the heels of the Mexican president's boycott of the Summit of Americas in Los Angeles this month. Lopez Obrador refused to attend the U.S.-hosted conference because Biden admin did not invite authoritarian governments of Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua. That decision, and the White House's frantic scramble to reverse it, cast a shadow over much of the summit. And while not overtly hostile, some of Lopez Obrador's comments to Biden touched on politically embarrassing topics, like the high price of gasoline in the U.S. Yeah, the price of gas is actually somewhat reasonable from what I understand in Mexico. I've never driven there, so I have no idea, but it's apparently somewhat reasonable. While we're waiting for prices of gasoline to go down in the United States, Lopez Obrador said at one point, we have decided that it was necessary for us to allow Americans who live close to the border to go and get their gasoline on the Mexican side at lower prices. Based? Holy shit, that's based. Oops. Well, there went my AM radio credentials. Lopez Obrador's admin recently began subsidizing gasoline prices. The Mexican president ended his remarks with a call for more and more formalized migration policies. It is indispensable for us to regularize and give certainty to migrants that for years have lived and worked in a very honest manner, he said. I know that your adversaries and the conservatives are going to be screaming all over the place, Lopez Obrador added, deploring phrasing he often uses to describe critics of his admin. Even to the heaven, they're going to be yelling. Indeed, Republicans have seized on the high number of migrants trying to cross the U.S. border as they criticize Biden's policies. We need to work closer together, Biden said after Lopez Obrador concluded. The rest of what you're saying, I agree with. So, it wasn't much of an earful, but Biden sitting out here fidgeting, not knowing what's going on, with his ankles showing, by the way. None of this is a really good look. From the Daily Wire. Critical stage. Feds consider charging Hunter Biden with multiple crimes, including gun-related crimes. From Ryan Saavedra. Federal prosecutors are reportedly weighing charging Democrat President Biden's son, Hunter, with multiple crimes ranging from various aspects of his business dealings to his lying on a background check to obtain a firearm. Yeah, nothing's going to come out of this. Merrick Garland's going to come in and he's going to find out who's getting ready to charge and he's going to say, no, we don't do that here. We only do that to Republican children. No. Fox News reported that the Office of Delaware U.S. Attorney David Weiss was considering charging Hunter with various tax crimes and possible foreign lobbying crimes. I do apologize to David Weiss's family because it appears that he has developed an unfortunate case of rapid onset depression, and his suicide will affect us all in the future. We're very sorry to hear about that. CNN reported that the investigators appear to have narrowed their focus to potential tax crimes and gun-related crimes. The potential gun charges are tied to Hunter's purchase of a firearm at the time that he would have been prohibited from doing so because of his acknowledged struggles with drug addiction. Let's see. Stephen Chung says, breaking, even CNN can't deny Hunter is in serious trouble. Let's listen.
CNN federal investigators are reaching a critical decision point on whether or not to charge the president's son, Hunter Biden. Sources tell CNN no final decision has yet been made, but charges could include alleged tax violations and lying about buying a gun when he technically was not allowed to because of his acknowledged struggle with drug addiction. The case is being investigated by the U.S. attorney in Delaware, who was appointed by President Trump, and President Biden did not replace that U.S. attorney because of this investigation. CNN's Kara Scannell and Evan Perez have details for us right now. Kara, let me start with you. Why do investigators need to decide soon on whether or not to charge Hunter Biden?
Well, Jake, one factor that prosecutors are confronting is the midterm elections. And there are Justice Department guidelines about bringing any politically sensitive cases around an election. And those guidelines include things such as taking any sort of overt steps like an indictment or executing of a search warrant, anything that could be perceived as putting a thumb on the scale. They try to avoid that. So now current and former Justice Department officials say that that deadline is effectively 60 days before the election. So that implies that there could be a decision soon about what steps they want to take, or they could decide to wait until after the elections in November.
But Evan, President Biden, not to mention Hunter Biden, are not on the midterm ballot. Is there any indication that Attorney General Merrick Garland might buck this Justice Department norm, or that this wouldn't be included?
Well, you know, Jake, we know one thing about Merrick Garland is that he is going by the book, right? Everything he does is by the book. And in this case, you know, as you pointed out, he's not Hunter Biden, and certainly Joe Biden's not on the ballot. But, you know, we can look at previous years with congressional elections. For example, in 2018, we know that the Justice Department brought cases in August of that year against Michael Cohen, who was the former president's personal attorney, as well as Chris Collins, who was a prominent supporter of the former president. He was on the ballot that year. So there's a lot of factors that these prosecutors are going to have to consider, including, of course, that looming is the next year. The Republicans already say that if they take over the House, they're going to do investigations. They're going to do hearings about Hunter Biden. So,
Which, and I hope they do, by the way, I really do. Because I want to see if there is evidence brought forward or not, if Garland actually proceeds on this. I love the fact that this guy said, oh, Merrick Garland, he plays by the book. What book does Merrick Garland play by? Because all I've ever seen him do is cut his political allies loose and go after his political enemies. That's all that I've seen him do. Apparently David Hogg is screaming somewhere. So we are going to put a pin in that. We'll probably talk about that tomorrow. I don't know where he's screaming, but he's up in the back of a room. I mean, he's animated. You can see that finger going. But as far as Hunter goes, nothing's going to happen to Hunter Biden. Nothing is going to happen to Hillary Clinton. Nothing's going to happen to Bill Clinton. Nothing is going to happen to Donald Trump. Nothing is going to happen to any of these people. Because especially once you get into a DOJ that's appointed by somebody with political bias, as somebody with political bias on top of that too, you will not find somebody who is impartial enough to try one of these things. One thing that I will say right off the bat before we move on from this, and we do need to move on, is that Garland should be forced to recuse himself from anything going on with Trump. Because he was passed over to be a Supreme Court justice by Trump. There is bad blood there. He should be forced to recuse himself. He won't, but he should be forced to. From KCRA 3, trucker protest shuts down operations at the Port of Oakland, which means that your supply chain is going to be scrambled up again.
Good morning, everyone. This is Wendy.
Shut up. Nobody likes you. I have no author given on this one. Truckers protesting a state labor law have effectively shut down cargo operations at the Port of Oakland. It was announced on Wednesday. The shutdown will further exacerbate the congestion of containers, and port officials are urging operations at shipping terminals to resume, a port statement said. The protest that began Monday involves hundreds of independent big rig truckers that have blocked the movement of cargo in and out of terminals at the port, which is one of the 10 busiest container ports in the country according to its website. Okay, seriously, how long does it take to get the boat around to the Panama Canal? Because Houston and Orlando are both begging for work right now. They say that they can do it, and I want to call their bluff on that. I say, okay, get these boats around there that are sitting there and have been idling for months and months and months. Send them around, get them unloaded. Let's see if Houston and Orlando can put their money where their mouths are and do it. The only person who loses, I mean, we can't get into any worse of a situation than we're in if they're just sitting out there idling off the coast versus coming out there and attempting and overwhelming ports that weren't meant to take these number of containers. We can't be doing any worse right now, but maybe we'll improve just a little bit. There was no immediate word on when the protests might end, but it's exacerbating supply chain issues that have already led to cargo ship traffic jams at major ports and stockpiled goods on the dock. The protest comes as toy makers and other industries enter their peak season for imports as retailers stockpile goods for the fall holidays and back-to-school items. The truckers are protesting AB 5, a gig economy law passed in 2019 that made it harder for companies to classify workers as independent contractors instead of employees who are entitled to minimum wage and benefits such as workman's comp, and overtime, and sick pay. A federal appeals court ruled last year that the law applies to some 70,000 truckers who can be classified as employees of companies that hire them instead of independent contractors. The International Brotherhood of Teamsters called it a massive victory for exploited truckers, but the California Trucking Association, which sued over the law, had argued the law would make it harder for independent drivers who own their own trucks and operate their own hours to make a living by forcing them to be classified as employees. Yeah, there is a lot. There is a ton of red tape that has to be in there, and quite frankly, if I was trucking and I was employed by a company, then there is no way in hell that I would own my own truck. No, that's not going to be happen. Now, if I own my own truck and could be classified as an independent contractor, I'd be all for that. I'm all for that. But there's no way that I'm going to put that level of money and risk and insurance and maintenance costs into something that I don't have independent control over. As of right now, there's no word on when the state might begin enforcing the law, which is still being contested in lower courts. So, a little bit of truckers. Oh, shut up. A little bit of truckers coming out and make sure that their voices get heard, but I'm sure a lot of people from the left are saying, no, not that way. Let's talk about Miss Frijoles from NBC News. Miss Frijoles attack Royals Latino heavy congressional race in Texas. From Mark Caputo. A Texas blogger paid by Democrat Rep. Vicente Gonzalez's campaign is attacking Republican opponent Rep. Mayra Flores as Miss Frijoles and a cotton-picking liar, prompting a wave of denunciations by fellow Democrats. The language first surfaced 3 days after Gonzalez's campaign wrote a $1,200 check to the McHale Report blog on June 24th for advertising services, according to the Democrats' Federal Election Commission Finance Report. But the blog, which has called Flores Miss Frijoles 21 times since then, has not published any Gonzalez ads. Flores, in a Twitter post on Monday, accused the Gonzalez campaign of paying a local blogger to run hateful and racist ads against me, a charge that Gonzalez campaign and blogger Jerry McHale deny. They both told NBC News that the timing of the attacks were coincidental, and the congressman didn't pay for any of the inflammatory posts, know about them, or have any control over them. How did they get away with this? And how is this not being shared by more outlets? I mean, this is... I'm debating if I can get away with that word right now. This would be the same... can I say this? You know what? They said it enough on the left talking about him. But I mean, this is the same level of disrespect as all those people out there that are calling Clarence Thomas a coon right now. This is exactly the same kind of thing. In a roundabout way, a blogger who is well known in the area, by the way. I did a little bit of background looking on this, watched a couple of videos about this guy, and wrote a couple other articles on this that we can't come back and include off of this, who is in a roundabout way, and Hispanic himself, calling Flores a beaner. And nobody finds a problem with this? Are you serious? I mean, even in the other part of the language. If you want to go back and call... What's the dude's name in the January 6th committee? Benny Thompson. What would happen if you called him cotton picking? Other than the fact that the world would end. This is a step above and beyond. But if we keep going down this, the next time Tim Scott goes to run for re-election, I probably wouldn't be surprised to see the N-word on prime time on national television talking about him. But apparently she flipped the script from The Blaze. Here's to Miss Frijoles 2022. Mayra Flores flips the script on Democrats' racist attacks, and it's perfect. from Blaze TV staff. Last week, Texas Republican Rep. Myra Flores outclassed the New York Times, a former newspaper, for publishing an ugly partisan hit piece, branding her as a dangerous far-right Latina. Now the newly elected congresswoman, who caused an uproar last month when she flipped a seat in a historically Democrat region along the southern border, has once again demonstrated for her defamers what it means to show grace, especially to those who don't deserve it. Democrat Rep. Vicente Gonzalez has apparently paid a blogger to call his Hispanic opponent Miss Frijoles and a cock-picking liar, according to NBC's News' The McHale Report. The McHale Report blog received $1,200 from Gonzalez's campaign just days before launching the lowbrow racist attack against Flores. Flores tweets out, "My far-left opponent, Vincent Gonzalez, hired a local blogger to run a hateful and racist ad against me. But I love frijoles, and I grew up eating frijoles, and I'm not embarrassed by my upbringings, and frijoles with tortillas de harina is simply the best. Here's to Miss Frijoles 2022. I guess if you enjoy flour tortillas, that's one thing, with beans. I prefer meat myself on a corn tortilla. But hey, flip the script. You're doing great. And occasionally I do enjoy frijoles myself. So that's what we see for that. Let's talk about, speaking of the immigration crisis and what's going on in that region, RNC Research. Democrat New York City Mayor Eric Adams says the influx of illegal immigrants is a real burden on New Yorkers. So if it's a burden on your city alone, what do you think it's doing to the rest of the country?
This is a real burden on New Yorkers as we're trying to do the right thing. We already, as I stated, we already have an overburdened shelter system. So now we're talking about, as you stated, food, clothing, school. This is going to impact our schools because we do not turn away individuals because they're undocumented. Translation services. There's just a whole host of things that this is going to produce, and that's why we need help in getting this done, and we need the right coordination to make it happen. This is a real burden on New Yorkers as we're trying to do the right thing.
Oh, it's a real burden when you suddenly bring millions of new people into an area without the infrastructure or the resources to handle them. What do you think this is doing for the rest of the country, Eric Adams? By the way, I double-checked while we were listening to Eric Adams come out and say that we don't turn away people from our schools or anything else because of documentation status, so this is a real burden because we weren't ready for this, and this number of people. While we were looking for that, I double-checked because I saw what Ron Helton put in the chat, and I questioned myself. And no, I was correct the first time. Harina is flour. Or harina, they don't pronounce the H in that language. But harina is flour. So, tortillas de harina are flour tortillas. And I still prefer corn, by the way. Mostly because I do have a mild intolerance to gluten. Not enough that it'll kill me if I eat it, but enough that when I lay awake at night with heartburn, I will know where it comes from. Reading from NBC4 out of New York. Asylum seekers flooding New York City shelters, mayor says, calling on feds for help. From Melissa Russo. Oh, what is it, Eric Adams? Are you mad that people are breaching your holy sanctuary? That they're coming in here because you intended for them to go out to all the little red areas around the country? Is that what we're doing here? New York City Mayor Eric Adams on Tuesday demanded the federal government help pay for what he said was a wave of asylum seekers pouring into the city, claiming its safety net was being strained by busloads of people coming from border states and elsewhere. Adams' comments echo those of D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser, who took to national TV Sunday morning to say her city's homeless shelters were filling up because of buses being sent en masse to the city from Texas and Arizona. Oh, but what is supposed to be being done in the rest of the country? What do you think is happening in Texas? And Oklahoma, and Louisiana, and New Mexico, and Arizona? Just because it's warm 364 days out of the year doesn't mean that we're in a situation that these people can just stay on the streets out there. I mean, 3 days a year it rains in Arizona. But as opposed to D.C., the problem in New York City is exacerbated by its right to shelter mandate. Yeah, we found the weakness in that too, didn't we? Which means any homeless asylum seeker who comes to town by any means has to be put in a bed somewhere. Those of you in the greater New York area, outside the city, do you have some popcorn? Because I suggest you go get some popcorn. Currently, New York City is experiencing a marked increase in the number of asylum seekers who are arriving from Latin America and other regions. In some instances, families are arriving on buses sent by the Texas and Arizona governments, who are frustrated by the fact that you are up there far away in New York saying, just take the people, and we're going to vote for politicians who tell you to just take the people. Well, if you're going to vote for these politicians, then you take care of the problem. Well, in other cases, it appears that individuals are being sent by the federal government, Adams said in a statement, adding that more than 2,800 asylum seekers have entered the shelter systems in recent weeks. No, they're not coming from the federal government, because the federal government insists that they all stay down in that region. Even though a lot of them make their way around here. But the offices of both Texas Governor Greg Abbott and Arizona Governor Doug Ducey denied Adams' claim, saying in separate statements that they were in fact sending asylum seekers to Washington, but not to New York City. You know, I don't even care if they're sending them to New York City at this point. Good. Again, New York City is one of the places that says, we must have more. In fact, I'd be okay with sending a couple busloads to Madison and the Twin Cities and Chicago. Send a bunch of them over there. Put a bunch of them in Seattle. See how that works. In turn, a spokesperson for Adams responded to those pushback claims, saying the governor should have more compassion for those seeking asylum in this country, and repeated the city's request for federal assistance. If they need financial help, they should ask for it instead of heartlessly sending asylum seekers on their way with a one-way ticket, the spokesperson said to the governors. In New York City, we have a legal and moral mandate to provide shelter to everyone who needs it, and we'll continue to fulfill that mandate, but as we have said, we urgently need federal support to help us to do so. Okay. Well, again, you have voted for this to happen. By and large, the people of Texas and the people of Arizona did not vote for this kind of policy. The people of New Mexico did, but the people of Texas and Arizona did not. So, it stands to reason that the people who have voted for this kind of policy should be the ones who take care of the problems in this kind of policy. Wouldn't you think? I would think. I'm not going to lie. I would do the exact same thing in this exact same situation. According to the New York City Department of Homeless Services, there were 28,885 individuals classed as a member of a family with children in a shelter system as of Sunday. That's about 12% higher than the daily average in March, the last month for which such data are available, and about 12% higher than this time last year. So, good. Here's a shocker for you. Uvalde shooter exhibited almost every warning sign, expert says. Of course he did. That's probably why he was picked to go carry out what the federal government wanted him to do. I mean, what the federal agent in his Discord wanted him to. I mean, what his crazy, bipolar, white, racist ideology wanted him to do. From Nadine El Bawab. The Texas House of Representatives committee report on the Robb Elementary School shooting revealed the accused school shooter exhibited many warning signs in the years, months, and days leading up to the school shooting, but he was still able to legally purchase the firearm used in the shooting. He was known to the FBI and still was able to go back and buy the gun. And nobody sees a problem with any of this. The report illustrated many features by the school and by law enforcement officers leading up to and on the day of the shooting, and caused an outcry among families of the 21 people killed in May. Oh, you don't say! Boy, where have we heard this before? Parkland. Private individuals were the only people who knew of many of the warning signs he displayed, as he had no criminal history prior to the shooting. The alleged shooter's apparent motive was a desire for notoriety and fame, according to the report. No, ask the federal agent in the Discord server. Those interviewed by the committee, including family, friends, and acquaintances, reported many warning signs that experts say should have raised red flags. Yeah, they're always known to the FBI, and yet they never do anything about it. Here's an interesting one, and we might have to cut it at this one just because we're running up on time. I want to see if I can't get a little bit further and get a couple more of these here. But we also have thing I like and a couple things that I hate. But this one, this almost made it to things that I hate today, but I have two worse ones than this. We have only a minute-long clip of this, but we've got a follow-up article that goes with it. ATF agents and a Delaware state cop show up warrantless at a man's home demanding to see his firearms. And it was all caught on his Ring camera, too, by the way.
Sir?
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I'm doing is verifying that, look, verifying that you have it. You got two different purchases.
Okay.
If you have them, I'm out of here. That's how quick it is. Yeah. You have them with you by any chance? Are they? If you can unload them and bring them out, or you can go out to your foyer here, check them out, by serial number, and we're out of here.
That's it?
Yep.
That's it. It'll take 5 seconds.
The reason we're out here is we're obviously gun violence has been an uptick, so we want to make sure we've been having a lot of issues with straw purchases. So one of the things indicators that we get is somebody makes like a large gun purchase, and then a lot of times we've been there like, oh, those guns got taken. We're like,
Boating accident.
So the idea is when you purchase more than 2 guns at a time, it generates a multiple sale report. And it comes to us and we have to check them out. That's all that is. He did nothing wrong. Did absolutely zero. I noticed that you were stopped in Philly though, right? With one of your guns, sir?
Yeah.
Okay, that's
all I'm
All right. First thing. All I'm asking is that you bring out your gun so we can verify the serial number. No. Get off my porch. Look. We have this report here of a multiple gun purchase. No. Get off my porch. Hey, we just want to verify the serial numbers. Okay, well, come back with a warrant for the serial numbers that you believe are there. there's more.
We'll wait. You feel more comfortable?
I'm okay. I didn't expect.
Oh no! But listen, it just came up. I'm telling you, that's why we came here. Look, there's an email from the federal side saying, hey, can you make sure this guy's got his gun? Now, if you recently just purchased a whole bunch of guns, if we can look at them and just scratch them off, and that way, because I know we're going to see this list again.
Yeah, we can just write which ones you just bought, and so we save a trip from coming back. We can just confirm that you have them. Right. Okay. Yeah. I'll go get them.
Okay.
Okay.
We will wait out here.
Okay.
We will stay out here.
Okay.
You can lock yourself in there.
My little boy in there and my wife.
Yeah,
Oh no. Listen, I understand. We'll stay out here. No big deal.
That's fine.
All right.
We'll stay out here.
All right.
Yeah, I don't blame him. Don't blame him.
We'll wait. You feel more comfortable
And that last part right there.
out here.
All right.
He doesn't believe that we're cops, does he? No, I don't blame him.
Yeah, I don't blame him. Don't blame him.
Oh, I thought I had an article I went with that. Guess I don't. But yeah, we've got, allegedly from this, 2 Delaware State Patrol agents and an ATF agent coming in saying, no, we got the multiple purchase report. We just got to go check those serial numbers and we'll be on our way. No, come back with a warrant. Which should have been a response at the beginning. All right, let's grab this one here from Benny Johnson. So, you're being gaslit again. AOC is now saying that the fact that she was faking being handcuffed is a conspiracy theory.
Republicans' favorite hobby is to make conspiracy theories out of everything to distract you and keep you from talking about what's actually important, which is the fact that they are trying to take away your right to bodily autonomy. If I was faking that, why would I intentionally fist pump somebody? It's so Republicans.
Well, it's probably because you thought that the cameras were off. You probably didn't believe that the video was there behind you. Either that, or you did it on purpose to go get more people coming back and talking about you, because everything that you do is fake and for fame. I think that is actually where we are going to call it for the day. Nope. How long is this one? 2:20? Yeah, we'll do this one too, because CNN got popped too by Veritas once again, and I wanted to get this one before the tweet gets taken down for hate speech. Caught red-handed, CNN tech director speaks out about instilling the next fear, climate change, as pinko pox is no longer a fear factor in controlling Americans.
Story comes up, they're going to latch onto it. They've already announced in her office that once the public will be open to it, we're going to start focusing mainly on climate, climate like global warming, and like that's going to be our next I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? It's going to be our focus. Our focus was to get Trump out of office, right? Without saying it, that's what it was, right? So our next thing is going to be for climate change awareness.
What does that look like?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I have a feeling it's just going to be like constantly showing videos of like decline in ice and weather warming up and like the effects it's having on the economy and really talking
Who decides that?
Head of the network,
Who's that? Is that Zucker?
Zucker, yeah. I imagine that he's got his council, and they've all like discussed like where they think
So that's like the next.
pandemic like story like that will beat to death. But that one's got longevity. You know what I mean? It's not like there's a definitive ending to the pandemic, or like it'll taper off to a point that it's not a problem anymore. I think it's going to take years, so they'll probably be able to milk that for quite a bit.
So climate change overload.
Be prepared. It's coming. Stories like right now, we had an inside track right now where 2 stories are going to be pushed. Climate change is going to be the next COVID thing for CNN. We're gonna hone it.
Focus on it.
I love it.
But that's a fair thing to focus on.
But to commit to that as a network.
You said it's going to be like the new COVID.
How does he keep doing that? One thing, and I tweeted this out yesterday when I saw this, I retweeted this, and I do have to remind all of you dorks on CNN, if you get the like on your Tinder from somebody who is way the hell out of your league, I promise you she is not into you. She wants you to say something for Project Veritas, and they're very good at enticing these people into this. So, there you go. The next crisis is going to be climate change, and CNN is going to propagandize that and push that. Now, how old this is, I can't tell you, because they're still referring to Zucker as the president, and remember, he has been out for a couple months now. I know, because I laughed at that. But this is what it is that they're planning to do. Alright, now let's do a thing that I like and a couple things that I hate, and we'll head out of here for the day. Thing that I like. Sometimes we get news stories that are things that I like, things that restore my faith in humanity, etc. We saw that yesterday. And sometimes I just let you in on a little bit of my personal life. The music I like, the TV shows that I like, the video games that I'm playing. And this week is going to be the video games that I'm playing. So I have taken up and actually taken an aggressive run into Stardew Valley on mobile. I've been playing Fallout 3, as we know, on PC and streaming that out, but I've been playing the mobile version of Stardew Valley for about as long as I've been playing Fallout 3 on stream, and I really enjoy it. I do want to go through and do a Stardew Valley farm at one point on stream with you guys and get to it, but it's going to be really hard going back onto the desktop version, going off the mobile version, because of all the shortcuts that the mobile version has in to overcome the technical limitations of using a mobile device. Regardless, I have give you now the trailer for Stardew Valley, and then we will talk just a bit about what the game is and why I enjoy it so much. Let's watch. All right, coming February 26, 2016, and it is here, and it is phenomenal. This is probably one of my favorite video games out there, and it's such a far cry different from the things that I normally play. Like, you usually see me play RPGs or first-person shooter RPGs or things like that. But it's so simple and it's so much fun. It works so well on the mobile platform too. Gaines asked if it's multiplayer. The PC version actually is multiplayer, and I've never played the multiplayer. No, I take that back. I have played the multiplayer version because I played with Rob from Generational Gap a couple times, and then then he got into the big thing of trying to go buy his new house, which I know that he's real happy about as well. But I have played with him before, John's former co-host over on Generational Gap. The multiplayer experience is actually very seamless. You can have, I think, up to 4 players on one farm, everybody working together to get things done, and it works out relatively well. I believe it is a split profit, so you all work onto the same joint bank account essentially, and it's fairly seamless. It does fairly well. So if you guys do want to do multiplayer, it's like $8 on Steam if you go out to buy it. I think it's 10 on mobile on the Samsung store if you go buy it on mobile. I don't know if there's multiplayer on mobile, which is how I typically play right now. But yeah, it's a fun game. There is a little bit of wokeness into it. You can enter into a same-sex marriage and adopt kids in a same-sex marriage, but it's not overt about it. That's the thing. And there's the realistic, like it's farming, but you understand that, everyone in this town is seeing somebody else. There's conversations on whether Abigail is the wizard's daughter and whether or not the shopkeep that is raising her could get it up or anything like that. I don't know if they actually say the get it up part because the game is kind of designed for kids. But like the woke that's in it's not overt. It's not a central part of the story. It's an option for if you are woke yourself and you want to go back and play the game. But if you want to be as based as possible, you can still get as much out of the game. And the other part of that is, you only heard the one track for the trailer, but the music in this game is a whole mood. Spotify has the original soundtrack on there. I recommend listening to it throughout the day, and it makes you feel energized. And now DJ Cutman has come out with a remixed version of the soundtrack, which is also very, very good. Stardew and Chill, I recommend that as well. If you have not checked out Stardew Valley, it comes highly recommended. It really does. It's amazing. It was meant to be a spiritual successor to Harvest Moon, which is why it stays in the 16-bit graphic era. But it's also accessible to a lot more people. Like, my laptop could run Stardew Valley no problem, and my laptop was having problems with Fallout New Vegas because of the graphics limitations, but it could handle Stardew with absolutely zero problems. So it's accessible, it's easy, it's a lot of fun. There's no real end to it either, so you can get hours upon hours of fantastic content out of this game. No, it's optional. It's not really in your face, but it's there for if the wokeoids want to come out and say, "Hey, you know what? I'm going to stick it to the man, and my farmer character is going to, my girl farmer character is going to go marry another girl," which that's typically how it goes. I don't know. It's a lot of fun. But there you go, Stardew Valley. Go and check it out if you haven't already. And now for a couple things that I hate. So we could say this is thing that I like, but also thing that I hate on one way. But we talked a couple days ago about the California school district that's on the cusp of putting a Planned Parenthood in the high school campus directly. Well, right now it is temporarily shut down. But the thing that I hate about this is the fact that this is even being talked about. Reading from the Daily Wire, California school district pauses vote on placing a Planned Parenthood clinic on high school campus after parents protest. From Charlotte Pence Bond. California's Norwalk La Miranda Unified School District was set to consider a proposal that put a Planned Parenthood clinic at a local high school, but they put the decision on ice as parents spoke out against the idea. It seemed like a few hundred parents that showed up, the Gavel Project founder and lawyer Ryan Heath told Fox News. The school board of 7 people was set to vote on Monday on whether or not to permit the Planned Parenthood to run and open a clinic at John Glenn High School, but parents came together and protested the move. Abortion is not included in the proposal, but, I mean, you know. But it claimed that Planned Parenthood Los Angeles is an organization devoted principally to the provision of reproductive health care services. The services provided, however, include prescription and or dispensing of pharmaceuticals related to reproductive health and referrals for additional medical or other healthcare services where indicated, noting that Planned Parenthood may make referrals to other health centers operated by Planned Parenthood for services not offered at the school. The clinic would also carry out the insertion of non-surgical long-acting reversible contraceptives, including, without limitation, IUDs, as well as laboratory services related to reproductive health. The deal would have automatically renewed for 2 successive 1-year periods and then would have required the board to approve it every 5 years. On Monday, the school released a statement saying the school district Board of Education will postpone the discussion of Board Agenda Item 12A regarding the Planned Parenthood clinic at John Glenn High School, adding that action will not be taken at a board meeting that night. So, good on the parents for coming in and stopping this, but the taste of blood is in the water. Where is this going to happen again? Where will this actually succeed? I'm amazed that they tried to do this in Los Angeles and it failed. Good amazed. I am amazed by that. But the taste of blood is there as Planned Parenthood, looking out and seeing that they might get some of their donations dried up in states where this is not going to be legal anymore, needs to go back out and find a new way to get a new generation of people hooked. They're going to do it like R.J. Reynolds did in the tobacco industry. Oh, look how easy it is just to go to Planned Parenthood and get whatever you want. Get your IUD, get your birth control, get your abortion. We don't even have to tell your parents. The fact that this even came up as an option is disgusting, and I hate it. And the other thing that I hate today, probably be a little bit of a shorter segment than what we saw at Planned Parenthood, but Nicholas Mateo tweets out, "They all mocked and belittled ivermectin as a horse dewormer for 3 years. It's literally ivermectin day this week because of how effective the medication is, even mentioning the WHO. Couldn't make it up. Let's watch the video and then I'll comment on it." That's really loud. So, in spite of the fact that if you want to use this for worms, for inorganic parasites, or organic parasites, If you wanted to use this, it's been prescribed to you. It's been in use for years. They even have a day for this because it's such a powerful and potent medicine for everything. The fact that people even considered using this for the commie coup made you a conspiracy theorist. People were running out to the farm and barn and getting the horse dewormer. And I made my thoughts on that completely clear. You guys all know what my thoughts are on that. If you bypass your doctor and get something that's prescription strength, made for an animal, you deserve whatever's coming to you. Because you have done a stupid thing. A thing that is less than intelligent. But the medicine that they said could never be used for humans has its own day because it's so effective in humans. As far as whether or not it was effective for the commie coup, most of the people have used it for that, sang its praises. Most of the people who are now bought and paid for by the pharma industry say it's evil and it's a horse dewormer and nothing else. I don't know what the facts are on that. I'm not going to lie. When I got the commie coup, I didn't take anything for it. And I would not be there to go put this in my body or monoclonal antibodies any faster than I would be out there to go run out and put the jab in my body. Guys, I barely take aspirin. Because I am paranoid of side effects on anything, any kind of medicine whatsoever. But hey, let's just continue to gaslight and say that, hey, we'll celebrate this World Ivermectin Day, even though we told you for a year that it doesn't work for anything that's not meant for humans. And that is thing that I hate. Let's head out of here for the day. All right, so with that, we are out of news for the day. We're heading out of here. We'll be back here tomorrow morning with more news, more headlines, more contemporary, and a few of the things that we didn't get to yet today. So come back and join us for that. Also, make sure that if you are just lurking right now and want to get thanked tomorrow, be here towards the end of the show tomorrow as we go through the live chat of the week, as well as some of the live chat of tomorrow as well. We'll be going through, looking through some of the stuff, seeing what it is that you guys have to say about the news and reading some of it on air after the fact. So come back and join us for that as well. Otherwise, come back and just join us for the news as well. Probably not going to be a game stream this weekend. I might be going out of town. That is a distinct possibility, so we'll see what happens with that and where that goes. But looking forward to seeing you here tomorrow for more contemporary. And until then, I am Jay Edgar. And this is Contemporary. Take care.